Hello, my friends and fellow preppers. This is the Art of Prepping. This is not going to be a very visual video. I'm going to make this in a low resolution for quicker upload time. This is just more of an informational or informative video. So if you just want to do other tasks while you listen to this, that's fine because there's nothing to really look at. But what I will say, though, for the new preppers or for those just getting into preparation, go ahead and pause the video. Go get some pencil or paper and get ready to jot down the top 32 points that you're going to need to have as a reference to get you started for this urgent message recap. So earlier in the last month, actually, it was a video series that I did. And it was basically an urgent message to preppers concerning the 2016 election here in the United States. I have a lot of concerns about things that are going to be changing very soon, especially within the months right after the election. So this is going to be a condensed follow-up and recap in one video. This is a fairly urgent message for people to get prepared. This is no joke. So I have outlined the top 32. I came up with about a 100-point list, but to whittle it down so that it's actually manageable and not too overwhelming, I picked the top 32, the best that I could do. Now let's get to this right now. Number one, food and water supply. Get as much as you can. Diversify what kind of food you get. Make sure some of it has at least a shelf life that's stable for 2 to 5 years. Most canned goods do that. And maybe even longer dried foods, if you will. And make sure to get foods that you already eat. Water supply. Get as many different types of water containers, BPA free, of course. You can get drums, you can get smaller cans, whatever it is that you can afford and it fits in your space. Number two, start your gardens. If you haven't already started it, get going with it. I know that we're in the mid to getting closer to the end of summer here shortly, and a lot of gardens in a lot of areas of the United States are going to be coming to an end. But what I can tell you, though, is that you can always garden in your home, and at the very least, you can at least do sprouts. You can sprout seeds year-round. So get some seeds at least at the very minimum. Number three, chickens and rabbits. You can keep these year-round. The chickens will lay eggs almost all year round. Just make sure you have enough of the nutrients so that they can create the eggs. And rabbits, among other different small animals, make good means for meat and fur. Water filters. You're going to need this. This is going to be something that you can't overstate. You're going to have at least several means of purifying water, especially if it's going to be coming from maybe a questionable source. I'd also have ways to collect water, especially by rain. The next thing would be guns. If you have any kind of weapons that you want to get, especially if it's firearm related, this is the time to get it. In some areas, it's still legal, and it may not be legal for real much longer. And this is not something that I want to hype or I want to make a big deal of, but this is just the reality of it. If it's still legal to buy the weapon that you want in your area, get it while you can. Number six. I'm going to stop numbering them. I'm just going to say the next thing is going to be ammunition and cleaning kits. You can also add spare parts to this list, whatever you need to maintain the weapon and to make it a usable weapon. Get that. The next item will be fish, antibiotics. Of course, if you can get the name brand, ones that say designated toward humans, go for it. But the fish antibiotics are the same thing. They're just relabeled. There's no such thing as manufacturers or pharmaceutical companies that make antibiotics for fish only. They come all from the same source. They're just relabeled. The next item would be supplements. Make sure you have enough nutrition, especially those things that are going to be water-soluble minerals and nutrients. That are actually burnt up, especially those vitamins like the B complex and vitamin C. They get burnt up the first in your body when you're under high stress loads. The next would be body armor. Body armor is going to be something that it will be probably legislated away pretty soon. After they go after various types of ammunition, they'll get rid of the body armor and then probably finally get rid of the actual firearms. So body armor, depending on what level you want, go ahead and get it while you can. First aid kits, especially trauma kits. Most people don't have real trauma kits. Get that. The next one will be two-way radios. Depending on what your specialty is and your knowledge and who in your group has what kind of radios, you're going to have to figure that out. But figure out what kind of radios give you the distance you need and the channels and privacy that you desire. The next one will be crank radios, such as emergency radios that have the AM, FM, and NOAA weather radios. Also, if you can get also with the shortwave capabilities. These crank radios also have multiple ways to power itself, but besides just the crank capabilities. I'd also keep a small one of these radios in a Faraday cage in case we get hit by EMP, just as a safeguard. The next one will be a dedicated shortwave radio, maybe a full size. This would be very much useful for basically adding a full wavelength antenna to it. This is going to be a much more sophisticated radio than just the ones you can get there on a crank version. And these will probably need an alternative battery source, which we'll get to in a moment. NBC, nuclear, biological, and chemical mask and spare canisters. They're not that hard to find the actual mask part, but the canisters is what's fairly difficult to get the 10-year ones. You don't want the little 2, 3, and 5-year ones that they expire too early. They're very, very difficult to find the 10 and over 10-year ones. Very, very difficult. In fact, they're almost impossible to get. The next one would be get a police scanner. And that kind of goes with our radio ones. Police scanners or any kind of a receiver that can scan multiple bands is going to be desirable to kind of get an idea of what's going on in your area. The next one will be potassium iodine tablets. This is something that can help block the reuptake of radiation in your thyroid gland if you're exposed to high amounts of radioactivity if we got nuked. So you definitely want to have at least a minimum of 2-week supply for everybody in your family. The next thing would be hand tools. Hand tools is going to be something that if we have to revert back to our own means to repair our home or vehicle, we have to have that, especially if a tree fell on our house and we need to chop that tree up and remove it. You're going to have saws and axes and hatchets or whatever it is. You need those tools. The next one would be to create a cache or caches around the homestead and other people's homes, at least diversify a lot of your different kits and so forth. The next thing would be to finish your bug out bag or survival bag. A lot of people talk about, I'm about halfway there, and they're always halfway there, and they never get done. Stop trying to get the highest dollar and highest priced items for every category and try to wrap some of this up. It's better to have some of the generic stuff than not have any of it for a whole category. The next thing would be to diversify your wealth. You can look at some gold or silver coinage, junk silver, or any other means that you may know that as long as you have knowledge of it and you know for sure it's a good diversification, that's not a bad idea. But don't forget, though, just in general preps like food and water and medical, extra batteries and so forth, they're going to be also very good diversifications as well. Alternative energy sources. Here we go. We might probably want to have a battery bank of some sort, probably from a solar, wind, maybe something else that you may have that can run for an extended amount of time. For the short-term generators and maybe a stash of fuel for your generators, but most people are not able to really stash much more than a few weeks of fuel for gasoline-powered generators. The next is going to be for the home. You need to harden the home, make it a little bit less appealing. At the very least, make your home more difficult to break in than your neighbors so that you're the least of a target in your area. Or even go up and down your street, and just kind of meander and just kind of take in about who has probably the most fortified and difficult home to break in, and just make it your goal to make sure that your home is just a little bit, at the very least, a little bit harder to break in than theirs. So you're the last target. The next is going to be get in shape. Go for walks. If anything, just go for walks. Stop sitting so much. Move around. Sometimes just doing things outside for your preps, like making your garden or taking care of your animals is enough just to kind of keep you in shape. You don't actually have to do like lift weights and do all this stuff, but it doesn't hurt. But you just got to keep moving. The next is going to be get your life in order. If you hate your job now, go ahead and try to find that job that's going to maybe fit better with you. If you're in a bad relationship, go ahead and start to close that out and start another chapter in your life. The next is going to be practice light and noise discipline. If you don't know how to be disciplined in that and not to make noise and not to be, drawing attention to yourself, you're going to have a lot of problems if we have a societal collapse. Train with your weapons is the next one. And get trained if you don't know how to train with it. The next is going to be beef up your emergency fund and your barter items. We have videos on that, so check that out, please. And the last thing is going to be diversify where your preps are stored. Don't put it all in one location. Like they said, don't put all your eggs in one basket. You definitely don't want to put it all in your home. So with that, I hope everyone's well. This is an urgent message to all preppers. Take this seriously. Concerning the 2016 election. There's a lot of instability in the world and instability in the political system in the United States. You want to take steps now while you can, while resources are available to take and to actually go ahead and invest in so that you have recourse if some things bad happen or things are outlawed overnight. Everyone be safe. Catch you real soon.